Hello everybody, welcome to Hot Wheels Monster Trucks MatchUp 18. And let's get started. To start things off, we have Camaro SS. Go big, go Hot Wheels! And Camaro SS gets a point. And ladies and gentlemen, we're now showing with this camera with this drone here. And we have Charlie!
Hi!
And here we go. Next, we have Dairy Delivery. And Dairy Delivery gets a point. Next up is Bone Shaker. And Bone Shaker gets a point. Next up is Dodge Charger RT. Oh! He didn't press it, so Dodge Charger RT fails. Never mind, guys. Dodge Charger RT gets a point. Next up is Darth Vader. And Darth Vader fails. Next up is Pure Muscle. And Pure Muscle slides to the trophy and gets a point. Next up is Squarepants.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
And Spongebob Squarepants gets a point. Next up is All Beefed Up. Oh, and All Beefed Up fails. Next up is Rodger Dodger. And Rodger Dodger gets a point. Next up is Scorcher. And Scorcher gets a point with the way he landed it. That's awesome. Some of the tires are on the Death Star, and some of them are on the trophy. We have never seen this move before in Hot Wheels Monster Trucks history. Wow. That's amazing. Alright, now on to the next truck. Next up is Skeleton Crew. And Skeleton Crew gets a point. Next up is 32 Degrees. And 32 Degrees gets a point. Next up is V8 Bomber. And V8 Bomber gets a point and gets stuck between the course and the Death Star. And gets a point. Next up is Stars and Stripes. And Stars and Stripes fails. Next up is Hot Wheels Racing number 1. Oh, and Hot Wheels Racing 1 gets stuck and fails. Next up is SuperFasto. And SuperFasto gets his first point. Last truck for this round is the king of the monster trucks, BigFoot. And BigFoot gets a point. Round 2. To start round 2, we have Bone Shaker. Go big, go Hot Wheels. And Bone Shaker gets stuck and fails. Next up is Hot Wheels Racing number 1. And Hot Wheels Racing number 1 does that perfect landing right next to the Death Star and the trophy. Wow, that is awesome. And gets a point. Next up is V8 Bomber. And V8 Bomber gets a point. Next up is All Beefed Up. And All Beefed Up slides to the trophy and gets a point. Next up is Scorcher. And Scorcher gets a point. Next up is Pure Muscle. And Pure Muscle gets a point. Next up is 2018 Camaro SS. And Camaro SS almost falls off the course and gets a point. Next up is Skeleton Crew. And Skeleton Crew gets a point. Next up is Darth Vader. And Darth Vader gets a point. Next up is Dairy Delivery. And Dairy Delivery fails. Next up is 32 Degrees. And 32 Degrees gets a point. Next up is BigFoot. And And BigFoot does a moonwalk to the trophy and gets a point. Next up is Dodge Charger RT. And Dodge Charger RT was close to the trophy but failed. Next up is Rodger Dodger. And Rodger Dodger gets a point. Next up is SuperFasto. And SuperFasto did a front flip and gets his second point in a row. Next up is Stars and Stripes. And Stars and Stripes gets a point. And the final race of round 2 is Spongebob Squarepants.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
And Spongebob was almost fall off the track and then slides to the trophy and gets a point. Round 3. To start round 3, we have Rodger Dodger. Go big, go Hot Wheels. And Rodger Dodger fails. Next up is Bone Shaker. And Bone Shaker fails. Next up is Scorcher. Oh, Scorcher was sliding to the trophy but missed and failed. Next up is SuperFasto. Oh, and SuperFasto gets his tires stuck and fails. Next up is VA Bomber. Oh! Did VA Bomber press it? Oh, I guess he gets a point. Did it? Did it? Yes, he did. VA Bomber gets a point. Next up is Camaro SS. Ooh, and Camaro SS failed. Next up is Hot Wheels Racing number 1. And Hot Wheels Racing number 1 does a wheelie to the trophy and gets a point. Next up is BigFoot. And BigFoot slides to the trophy and gets a point. Next up is Spongebob Squarepants.
I'm ready.
Oh, Spongebob missed. Next up is Skeleton Crew. And Skeleton Crew gets stuck in. Next up is Dodge Charger RT. And Dodge Charger RT gets a point. Next up is Darth Vader. And Darth Vader gets a point. Next up is Stars and Stripes. And Stars and Stripes gets a point. Next up is Pure Muscle. And Pure Muscle fails. Next up is Dairy Delivery. And Dairy Delivery gets a point. Next up is 32 Degrees. Oh, and 32 Degrees missed. The final attempt for this round and this matchup is All Beefed Up. Let's see if he gets the last point for today. And All Beefed Up gets a point. And guys, that wraps up Hot Wheels Monster Trucks. And stay tuned for the next Hot Wheels Monster Trucks. And see you guys next time for more Hot Wheels Monster Trucks.